Hi, this is Julie and welcome back to part 2 of my video on soul landscapes. In this video we'll be discussing seasons of the soul and diseases of the soul. Seasons of the soul, they run in accordance with the natural cycles of the universe and of the earth. Nature is interconnected in a web of electricity and invisible power that we cannot access with our normal way of seeing. However, scientists are discovering that the connection between all life is there, that we interact with each other in ways that we don't understand, that we may perceive a feeling of someone before we even talk with that person, and it's a shared knowledge, something that is traveling through different venues other than normal ways of communicating, like speaking or even in body language. There's a knowing, I call it an intuition, that we're able to understand things. And I believe this is just a small example of how we are connected to everyone and everything. A lot of the New Age teachings are that we're all one and we're all connected. Well, I believe we're all connected, but I also think that we are on our individual journeys to discover ourselves. That even though we exist from the same energy as everyone else, doesn't mean that we are not striving to fulfill our own purposes. So in this dimension, on this plane, that is what we're doing. We are attempting to discover our authentic self, and we are trying to discover what in this universe is, what are we trying to express? How can we express it in our own individual way? Well, things that interfere with that expression and that interfere with that learning are things that govern and control our minds. Diseases of the soul can be found in behaviors of people. If you spent 12 hours on a psychiatric unit, as me and my co-workers and many people I've worked with have, you'll be able to see the sickness in society. Now, I am not trying to be detrimental to the patients, because we all suffer from our own level of mental illness, or as I like to call it, soul disease. That disconnection between ourselves and the source is what creates these abnormal behaviors within our psyche, and it projects itself out into our world. So, seasons of the soul, there's an energy that guides us. We go through cycles. The cycles are there to remind us and help us to use the energy in the way we need to. So, for example, in spring, it's the time for new life and creation and, bringing forth new things. The same premise is for us and our souls. The spring of our soul is to be able to be creative and do that. So, you look at the seasons and you go into autumn, and you're harvesting those things that you have created and that you have worked for. And then you go into winter, and it's a time to rest. It's a time to remove all of the things that you no longer need. For example, in a farmer's field, they will till up the ground and prepare it for next season, or it will sit infertile. It will sit in a state of rest, decay. Even the decay from the plants that grew in it helps to nourish the land in order to feed the next cycle, the next spring. The same thing occurs in our souls in our emotions. We go through that dark period where we are resting, where we are reabsorbing all those things that no longer serve us in order to be able to create into the next cycle. The importance of these cycles, which we have forgotten, it helps us to maintain balance with that universal source, with that universal energy. Because we haven't been doing this, because we've been taught that nature is our enemy, we have been taught that the connection to the earth is paganistic and evil. We have disconnected ourselves voluntarily from those cycles that were meant to keep us in a state of normalcy, a state of equilibrium, of balance. So in order to explore that further, we need to see what kind of diseases are coming out from the, I don't want to say misuse, but from the lack of letting ourselves go through the cycles and being able to take that energy and to move and recreate that energy the way that it needs to be. So we already talked about excessive behavior and mental disorders. There's also instability in the psyche, such as psychosis, where patients will start to see different dimensions. A lot of lingo in psychiatric is the patients hallucinating. They're seeing or hearing things. They're having delusions or illusions about things. However, I feel that what the patient is seeing is a projection of their soul. It is how their energy is connected into the energy of the universe. So their lens that they're seeing through is different from ours. That doesn't mean it's wrong. That means that their energy, their cycle, what they're able to absorb into reality or non-reality. I mean, who's to say that we live in a reality? We may be living in the non-reality. And I kind of state that I think we're all living in the dream. We just don't realize it. But because the person's perception is different, because they're seeing the world through a different lens, other than what we are, we label it in our culture as illness. Because we are not seeing the same thing. So sometimes this can lead to depression. People who have different experiences than what is allowed or accepted in culture or society, they become depressed because they feel like they're the only ones who are experiencing or having these experiences in their lives. And then that in itself creates a disruption in equilibrium. And on the first page of my website, I discuss the feather and that symbol and how it came to me. And I also discuss how the Egyptian goddess Ma'at weighed the feather on the scales for balance. Well, that balance, we tend to look at it as being sinful or being righteous. That balance is the energy within us. It's how that energy flows through us. If we're light of heart and we're able to balance the darkness with our lightness, then we are ready to transcend, to ascend, as Jesus did in the ascension. And he set that example for us. The body needs to be dissolved. The material needs to be dissolved. You need to be able to overcome the illnesses of the psyche, to see through the right perception, to reconnect with that energy. And that goes back into the work of some authors and lecturers and scholars who I have found to be very helpful in the way that I understand things. So I'm going to recommend that you look into the works of William Henry. William Henry discusses the rainbow body and how, there are different ways that we as humans are able to create that rainbow body. and that mystics and sages from different religions were able to do that. They're able to transcend their body into energy and to be able to move their soul to different levels. William Henry and his wife Claire Henry have a series called Arcanum on Gaiam TV. I would recommend watching that. Some of the information he shares is a unique perspective. I don't see a lot of other people sharing it, and I agree with it, and I think it's just wonderful, fabulous work. Another scholar who I recommend is Robert Tiggle. Robert Tiggle is a PhD. He worked for the Center of Disease Control, and he's also a metaphysical author. But he also teaches about the Rainbow Bridge. He calls that the bridge between our soul connection and star connection. He even calls it the soul-star connection. Because he's worked in healthcare, I'm sure he understands the misconceptions and the lies and deceit that's going on to cover up the true nature of who we are and how we're connected to things. But I would suggest looking into his work as well. He offers seminars and teachings, so please go to his website. The next person I'd like to recommend is Julia Cannon. Julia wrote a book called Soul Speak. Soul Speak talks about how we have these physical illnesses in our body and how they're connected to our psyche, how they're connected to past life issues that we haven't resolved. You know, all those issues, whether you believe in reincarnation or past life, they're stored inside of us. My big belief is that our DNA holds the memories of our ancestors. We are our ancestors. We are the product of our grandparents and great-grandparents and so on and so forth. Why would we not contain their energy within us? We came from them. The DNA, the function and how it works has been hidden from us, and we truly don't understand how it works. But I feel that we have that connection already, and it's up to us to realize how to reconnect to it, whether through its past life regression or through meditation or any other type of spiritual malady that you may practice. So the last author, lecturer, researcher that I want to recommend is the work of Michael Tsarion. Michael Tsarion's work has made a big impact on me. He focuses on the psychological aspects of what is going on in our society today. He talks about the hidden manipulators of our reality and the enslavement of our minds. I have several links for him throughout the pages on my website. I would recommend you looking into his lecture, The Origins of Evil, maybe as a place to start. He has a video someone compiled. There's a short clip called The Mountain. Please look at that one because I think it's inspirational. And another one that really touched me was his lecture on the authentic self. And it really helps to clarify and help people to understand that the true purpose of our life here is to develop who we are. Not try to be like everyone else, not be what the television and ads tell us to be ourselves. Please remember, you're beautiful beyond measure. You're powerful beyond measure. You have all the tools of creation that the Source has given you to be able to walk your path on this earth. When you remember that, when you remember how powerful you are, and you know that you are being manipulated by sources who feed off of you, whether it's get rich off of you or they drain your energy, you're just food. You're just a slave. But when you remember who you are and you remember how powerful you are, you overcome that. And in that moment, you move all of us in an awareness outside of what they're trying to create for us. So please tune in to part 3 of this video. I'll just kind of roll everything up and summarize my soul landscape page and what kind of techniques that we can use to help heal these issues. What are the solutions to these problems? How can we finally find that connection to that energy of the universe and the source we call God. So please tune in to part 3. Thank you.